The year is 2025. 63 years have passed since the blink, the blinding, instantaneous moment when the world changed forever. It remains a hushed, scarred place, a canvas painted in faded, dusty colors beneath a sky often choked with the fine particulate legacy of that long-ago fire. The air itself seems thinner, carrying the ghosts of burnt things, tasting faintly of metal, ash, and the strange, chemical tang of residual radiation. Trees grow gnarled and stunted, twisted into unnatural shapes, their bark sometimes strangely patterned, their few leaves sparse or unnaturally colored. Mutated flora, often unsettling in its vibrant, unnatural hues or eerie luminescence, dots the ruined landscape, sometimes growing in defiant patches near lingering hot zones, their unsettling beauty a chilling indicator of hidden death. The crumbling husks of concrete and steel structures, once soaring towers of human ambition and progress, now stand like broken teeth against the horizon, silent, weather-beaten monuments to a vanished age, their empty windows gaping like vacant eyes. This is the Ember Age, born from the ashes, a time defined by what was lost, the weight of a catastrophic past, and the desperate, grinding struggle to simply be, to endure one more day under the bruised, perpetual twilight sky. That inferno was ignited by the Cuban Missile Crisis. In another, luckier history, the world held its breath and stepped back from the brink, diplomacy somehow prevailing. In this one, the delicate balance shattered completely. Fear, entrenched ideology, catastrophic miscalculation at multiple levels, and perhaps a single, accidental act in a moment of unbearable tension initiated the irreversible cascade. The precise sequence of failures, the exact moment reason broke, is debated endlessly around campfires and in hushed bunker halls decades later. Was it a general refusing a recall order, a technical malfunction misinterpreted as a first strike, a political leader refusing a final offer, a chain of command breaking down under unimaginable pressure? The full truth is buried with the billions who died. What is known is the outcome, a chain reaction of retaliatory strikes, instantaneous, irreversible, and devastating beyond human comprehension. Strategic Air Command bombers, already on airborne alert or launched from hardened bases, streaked towards their assigned targets across the globe. Soviet missiles, hidden in silos and planes or aboard submarines lurking in the deep ocean, arced across the polar ice. Submarine-launched warheads erupted from the depths near coastlines, catching entire coastal cities utterly unprepared. It wasn't a slow descent into hell, it was a blinding, deafening plunge, a searing transition from nervous peace to total war in minutes. Sirens wailed for mere moments, if they even survived the initial electromagnetic pulse, before being swallowed by the monstrous roar of explosions that flattened buildings and turned concrete to dust. Panic-gripped cities, highways jammed with futile attempted evacuations, but there was nowhere truly safe to run. Nowhere to hide from the sheer scale of the destruction and the subsequent deadly invisible rain of fallout. It wasn't instant annihilation everywhere, not a single, total erasure across the globe at the exact same moment, but in many places, it came terrifyingly close. Some cities, critical hubs of government or military power, or dense population centers, were utterly vaporized in seconds, leaving behind vast, glowing craters where millions had lived and worked just moments before. Others endured multiple hits, collapsing layer by layer into radioactive rubble, their intricate networks of streets, buildings, and subway tunnels becoming instant mass graves under mountains of concrete, steel, and glass. Military bases, industrial centers, government headquarters, the primary targets were grimly predictable, but the secondary effects, the radioactive fallout carried by the winds, were anything but contained. Prevailing winds, driven by the sheer energy of the detonations and subsequent firestorms, carried vast plumes of radioactive dust and debris across continents and oceans, coating the land, water, and everything living in a silent, invisible killer that would linger for generations. Firestorms raged in the ruins for days, then weeks, consuming everything combustible, generating winds hotter than blast furnaces and turning cities into infernos so massive they created their own weather systems, pumping vast quantities of smoke, ash, and fine particulate matter high into the stratosphere. The combined effect of this atmospheric debris was catastrophic. It blocked out the sun, plunging the world into a chilling nuclear winter that lasted for years. Summer became a perpetual, gray twilight, cold and unproductive. Winter became an endless, biting dark, where temperatures plummeted far below historical norms, and frost never left the ground in many regions. The immediate aftermath was a nightmare of unimaginable scale and chaos that stretched for months and years. Billions perished in the initial attacks, the subsequent firestorms, and the immediate, lethal doses of radiation. But death continued its harvest long after the bombs fell. Infrastructure vanished completely, roads were cratered or blocked by debris mountains, bridges were down or twisted into unusable shapes, train lines were twisted wrecks of metal, air travel simply ceased to exist. Communication networks died instantly, phones went silent, radios crackled into static, satellites fell or ceased functioning, leaving survivors isolated and terrifyingly alone, unaware of the fate of anyone beyond their immediate vicinity. Governments ceased to function. The complex web of bureaucracy, law, order, and civil society simply evaporated with the death or disappearance of those who upheld it. The intricate global systems that sustained billions, coordinated food production and distribution, sophisticated healthcare networks, complex logistical chains moving goods across vast distances, dissolved into chaos and desperate scarcity. Hospitals were destroyed or overwhelmed, supply lines vanished, farming on a large scale became impossible in the nuclear winter conditions. The intricately balanced, globally connected world of 1962 was gone, replaced by brutal, localized anarchy and the desperate, primal struggle to simply find enough food, clean water, and safe shelter to survive the next day. Survival became a brutal, localized fight for mere existence. Those who had access to deep shelters, whether military bunkers, government fallout shelters, or even reinforced basements built by paranoid individuals, however inadequate or ill-equipped for the long haul, huddled in the oppressive dark. They breathed filtered air that tasted of dust and ozone, listening to the muffled thunder of a dying world outside. They were safe from the immediate fire and blast, but prisoners of their own refuge, dependent on finite internal resources that dwindled daily, facing the psychological toll of confinement and uncertainty. Those who survived on the surface faced a terrifying new reality, a sky without sun, freezing temperatures even in what should have been summer, crops failing universally in the cold and darkness, and an unseen killer, radiation, leaching into the soil and water, contaminating everything it touched, an invisible poison that could take years to manifest its lethal effects. Groups of survivors coalesced out of sheer, desperate necessity, families desperately clinging to one another in the ruins, neighbors pooling their few remaining resources in temporary camps, scattered military units trying to maintain discipline and purpose in a world without orders, and opportunistic gangs quickly realizing that in this new, lawless world, might made right and resources belong to those strong enough to take them by force. Trust became the rarest commodity, a luxury few could afford. Every stranger was a potential threat, a competitor for scarce food and water, a potential thief or killer in a world where law had no meaning. The psychological impact of this constant threat, the loss of the familiar world, and the pervasive silence added a layer of weariness that settled deep in the bones. The long, sunless winter of the 1960s and 70s culled the population further, relentlessly. Starvation was rampant. People ate anything they could find, roots, insects, scavenging through ruins for anything remotely edible, sometimes even resorting to cannibalism in the most desperate corners of the shattered world to stay alive. New diseases, mutations of old ones, or just common infections that pre-war medicine could have easily handled, swept through weakened communities with devastating speed, as sanitation collapsed and immune systems failed under the strain of malnutrition and radiation exposure. Radiation sickness claimed millions more, a slow, agonizing decline marked by nausea, weakness, hair loss, internal bleeding, and a complete system collapse. Its symptoms were often misunderstood by those without medical knowledge, attributed to curses, demonic influence, or divine retribution by those who watched their loved ones sicken and die with no visible wound or clear cause. Knowledge, the accumulated wisdom of millennia, was lost at an alarming rate. Libraries burned or rotted, universities were destroyed, experts died, and the complex technical understanding of the pre-war world became fragmented myths and whispered legends, often distorted by superstition and fear. Technology regressed rapidly. Without industrial capacity to manufacture even basic components, without functional electricity grids or global supply chains, the marvels of 20th century engineering, cars, computers, aircraft, complex machinery, communication networks, became inert, irreplicable relics. They were fit only for scavenging metal or providing rudimentary shelter. Hand tools, manual labor, and basic, practical survival skills became the dominant technologies foremost of humanity, a return to simpler, harder ways of living. By the 1980s, as the heaviest particulate matter settled, the sun, a weak, reddish, unfamiliar presence, began to tentatively reappear through the hazy, thinner atmosphere. The world it illuminated was drastically and permanently changed, a landscape of death, decay, and strange new life. The climate remained erratic, prone to sudden, violent storms that could appear without warning, wiping out a season's precious crops or demolishing fragile shelters. Pockets of high radiation persisted, vast zones of extreme danger best avoided, their boundaries marked by crumbling fences, faded warning signs, if they survived the decades, or simply the chilling silence, the absence of birdsong, and the complete lack of scavenging activity. Stepping into a zone was a gamble with a high likelihood of lethal consequences, whether immediate or delayed. The land was dotted with monuments to ruin. Shattered skyscrapers pierced the gray sky like broken teeth against a grim horizon. Collapsed bridges spanned non-existent rivers or glowing, contaminated streams. Fields of rusted vehicles, fused into abstract sculptures by heat and time, lay scattered like discarded toys across a giant's playground. Nature, however, was incredibly resilient. It had begun to reclaim these broken places, but it was a distorted, dangerous nature, populated by mutated creatures and toxic plants. Giant, aggressive insects, unnaturally colored and strong, scuttled through debris. Fast-growing, toxic molds, sometimes luminescent, could blind or burn flesh. Animals exhibited strange deformities, extra limbs, missing eyes, unnatural size, or unsettling luminescence, their behavior often unpredictable and aggressively hostile towards humans, who were now just another part of the new food chain. In this harsh new world, humanity clung to existence in isolated pockets, small, struggling sparks in the vast darkness and decay. Global communication was dead, messages traveled only by word of mouth, carried by dangerous couriers who risked their lives for information, or rare, trained animals like carrier pigeons. Travel between distant regions was a perilous undertaking, fraught with dangers from the environment, mutated life, and other humans. It was undertaken only by daring traders seeking vital goods or heavily armed expeditions seeking new resources, safe havens, or forgotten knowledge. Nations were just names in tattered history books, remembered only on faded maps and in fragmented legends of a time of plenty and incredible power, a mythical before times. What remained were these disparate communities, struggling against the harsh environment, against the persistent threat of mutation and radiation, and often against each other for resources, territory, and dominance. Survivor communities had solidified, becoming distinct entities, each with its own character, rules, and struggles for survival. Some were brutal, authoritarian enclaves ruled by self-proclaimed warlords who controlled scarce resources through force. Others were small, insular farming villages. Remnants of pre-war institutions sometimes formed more organized, technologically savvier factions clinging to lost knowledge. Ideologies varied wildly, from recreating lost nations to pragmatic survival to strange cults. Now, in 2025, this was the inherited world. Now, in 2025, 63 years after the blink, this was the inherited world. Technology levels varied widely between these communities, creating a patchwork of Stone Age struggle and salvaged ingenuity. Some settlements were effectively pre-industrial, relying entirely on muscle power and simple hand tools. They might have rudimentary water filters made of layered sand, gravel, and charcoal, and relied heavily on herbal remedies for medicine. Others had salvaged generators, vehicles, kept running with immense effort and constantly dwindling caches of fuel, and even functional electronics from the ruins, painstakingly maintained by skilled tech scavengers. These individuals were the mechanics, engineers, and electricians of the Ember Age, capable of coaxing life out of dead machines and improvising replacement parts with incredible ingenuity. Their skills vital for survival and highly prized. A few rare communities, often those who had preserved scientific knowledge in secure locations like hardened bunkers or research facilities, might possess functional radio communication, though often limited range. Basic medical technology like antibiotics, rare and precious, or rudimentary diagnostic tools, or even the ability to refine fuel from salvaged oil or other sources. This gave them a significant, though precarious, advantage in a world desperate for power and knowledge. For everyone, regardless of their technological level, water purification and safe food production were constant, daily challenges, requiring vigilance, resourcefulness, and often, risking exposure to contamination or external threats. Life was hard, often short, measured in sun cycles rather than years, marked by scarcity, danger, loss, and constant uncertainty. Every day was a negotiation with the environment, mutated threats, and other humans, conducted under the pervasive melancholy of living in the shadow of a destroyed world. Childhood was brief, a time to learn the harsh lessons of survival quickly, leaving innocence behind. Adulthood was a relentless struggle against decay, external threat, internal illness, and exhaustion. Disease, radiation exposure, a constant, insidious threat, violence, and simple accidents were daily possibilities. Yet, humanity persisted with astonishing, heartbreaking stubbornness. Children were born in the ashes, learned to track mutated animals, cultivate strange crops, and salvage useful items from the ruins. They listened to stories of the before times, often mythologized into an age of unimaginable abundance and wonders. Communities developed their own customs, laws, and understanding of the shattered world, blending fragments of old knowledge with new superstitions and hard-won practical experience. Anya had known only the Ember Age. She was born in 2003 in the settlement of Haven. It was built around and within a salvaged, pre-war research bunker complex, designed to survive the worst. Her earliest memories were of the filtered air, the hum of generators, and the echoing concrete corridors. Her world was defined by the perimeter fence, the patrols, and constant vigilance. Haven was relatively fortunate. The bunker's original Geiger counters still functioned, providing reassurance against lingering radiation and allowing monitoring of outside air. They had managed a few old hydrostatic systems for limited indoor farming under artificial light, providing crucial food. But their lifeblood was the scavenged technology they maintained. Right now, their most vital piece of equipment, the primary water purification system, was failing. It was a complex, pre-war unit, its schematics lost, components irreplaceable except by finding another. Its output was decreasing daily, and the water quality was becoming dangerously questionable. Without it, relying on less effective backups, Haven's water supply would soon become contaminated to lethal levels. They needed a specific replacement component, a gamma regulator, a part so specialized it could only be found in certain high-tech pre-war facilities, places likely heavily targeted and contaminated. Intelligence suggested one might exist deep within Zone Rouge, the ruins of City Prime, in the old central power plant, a vast, silent structure known for extremely high radiation, aggressive mutants, and rival humans. But without that regulator, Haven was doomed. The council debated the high-risk gamble. Anya, known for her steady hand, quiet competence, and ability to keep her head, volunteered for the mission team. She wasn't the strongest, but she had an unnerving calm and a personal reason to despise the silent killer. Radiation sickness took her younger sister 3 years ago, a slow, agonizing death Anya witnessed. The memory fueled a cold, hard determination. This mission was more than saving Haven, it was striking back at the force that had stolen her family. The mission team was small, just 4 chosen for skills and nerve: Marcus, the grim, experienced leader, a former soldier; Finn, the youngest, 18, jumpy on his first deep zone run; Lena, sharp and pragmatic, who knew the city ruins intimately; and Anya. Armed with a mix of salvaged firearms and sputtering Geiger counters, they prepared to leave Haven, watched by their anxious community. Entering Zone Rouge felt like stepping into the throat of a dead giant. The air was thick with dust and a pervasive chemical tang. Twisted steel skeletons of skyscrapers clawed at a muted sky. Streets were impassable gorges of rubble and melted vehicles. The silence was broken only by the wind, their footsteps, and the erratic clicking of Geiger counters, a constant chorus, an auditory manifestation of the invisible threat that had killed her sister. Lena guided them through the labyrinth, her knowledge invaluable. Each step was a calculated risk in the unstable terrain. They encountered obstacles, a massive pileup of fused vehicles they had to climb over, the metal groaning. Finn slipped, crying out, and Anya instinctively grabbed his arm, pulling him back. "Quiet, Finn," she whispered. "Sound travels here. And it attracts things." Deeper in, the Geiger counters clicked more urgently. Radiation spiked. They passed an area where the air shimmered faintly, distorting ruins, an anomaly Lena warned them to avoid. Weird things happened near them, unsettling. They saw traces of others, crude cult symbols painted on walls, strange and unsettling, and signs of recent scavenging, adding pressure. They also heard them, the low grunts of glowhogs, massive, aggressive mutated beasts drawn to sounds and movement. They were forced to take a longer, more treacherous route to avoid a pack guarding a collapsed overpass, the sounds a chilling reminder of lurking dangers. Anya kept her rifle ready, her determination fueled by her sister's memory. Every step was a small act of defiance. They finally reached the power plant, a vast, decaying monument. Inside, it was a maze of dark, echoing chambers, twisted metal, collapsed gantries. They searched for hours, guided by fragmented knowledge. Amidst the decay, in a former office, Anya found a child stuffed bear, surprisingly intact, a heartbreaking relic of a life extinguished, a reminder of the human cost. Sorrow threatened to break her, but the mission came first. She left it. They found the control panel in a reinforced subbasement. The gamma regulator was there, nestled within its casing. But examining it, Marcus's face fell. Damn it. Casing's cracked. It might work, but needed recalibration, requiring a specific crystal key, likely kept deeper inside, in a more dangerous, highly radiated area. A new, fatal obstacle. Just as Marcus explained, Finn hissed, "Footsteps. Up above us." Multiple. Figures appeared, likely raiders. A tense standoff ensued. As threats were exchanged, a deep, guttural roar echoed from further within the plant, louder, more terrifying than the glowhogs, a sound of immense power and pain, followed by tearing metal. Whatever it was coming fast. The raiders panicked, realizing they were trapped. Their leader opened fire wildly down the stairs. Anya, Lena, and Marcus returned fire. The exchange was brief, brutal. One raider fell. The others scrambled back as the roaring creature got closer, disappearing up the stairs. But the Haven team paid a price. 2 were hit. Finn cried out as a bullet grazed his arm, but Lena slumped, clutching her side, blood blooming rapidly. The immediate aftermath was filled with ringing ears, gunpowder smell, and pained gasps. The creature's sounds receded, pursuing the raiders, but the danger wasn't over. Lena was badly wounded, a bullet lodged deep. Marcus, despite his own minor injuries, checked her quickly, grim-faced. "She's hit bad. Needs proper medical attention. Fast. Back in Haven." He applied pressure bandages. "But we still need that calibration key. Without it, this whole damn run was for nothing. Ben and Sarah dead, all for nothing." He looked at Lena, then the deeper plant levels. The gamble was immense. Anya saw the dilemma. Her sister's face flashed. This was personal. "I'll go," she said, voice steady. "Lena needs you here. Finn can help. Tell me where, Lena. Quickly." The final trek was the most perilous. Alone, weight crushing, Geiger counter screaming, Anya ventured deeper into the plant's glowing heart. Her companion's safety, Haven's future, depended on her. Armed only with rifle, fading flashlight, and shrieking counter, she moved through corridors where air grew heavier, tasting metallic. Strange, luminescent fungi grew. shadows seemed to writhe. Radiation burned, a growing ache in her bones, the signature of the death that claimed her sister. Guided by Lena's hurried directions, admin was usually Level 4. Archives, reinforced vault. Anya moved with a predator's silence. The deeper she went, the more intense radiation became, the more bizarre the environment. She found the administration area, less damaged, and a small, reinforced wall safe. The Geiger counter shrieked. With trembling, determined hands, using tools Lena gave her, Anya forced it open. Inside, nestled in decaying foam, was the crystal key. It pulsed with faint luminescence, humming slightly. It felt warm and unsettling. Her return was a blur of pain, fear, grim determination. She moved fast through radioactively charged corridors, counter-screaming. The ache intensified. She reached the others, slumped near the sub-basement entrance. Relief washed over them. There was no time to waste. They retreated from the plant, helping Lena move, supporting her weight, sounds of the zone fading. The journey back to Haven was an arduous, painful endurance test, a blur of walking, resting, tending to Lena, fighting exhaustion, nausea, psychological strain. They were pursued only by failing strength, the silent landscape, ghosts of the dead city, carrying wounded and prize. Back in Haven, key and regulator were delivered to the lab. Community waited, huddled, silent, broken by whispers, distant sounds of medical aid for Lena. Technicians, led by Alara, worked through night, salvaged manuals, improvising tools. Faces etched with fatigue but driven by necessity. Finally, a cheer erupted. Water purification system sputtered, groaned, roared to life. Clear, clean water flowed from taps, sound and sight never taken for granted, small, life-giving miracle won at heavy price. Anya watched from crowd edge, utterly exhausted, aching, sickness of radiation await. Finn sat processing. Marcus stayed with Lena. 2 empty spots remained. Cost was high, lives and lingering illness. Yet, seeing people fill containers, relief on faces, quiet thanks, Anya felt flicker of hard-won triumph, stubborn, defiant hope. World of 2025 harsh, born from past mistakes. No nations, only struggling pockets like Haven, fighting for every drop, every day. But looking at community, water flowing, faces marked by hardship illuminated by hope, she saw not just scars, grief, relentless hardship, but enduring, stubborn flicker of human spirit. They faced zone, paid price, endured. Against all odds, still here ember age, piecing future from ruins, one scavenged part, one drop water, one determined day. Path uncertain, fraught danger, hardship, legacy blink shadow. But vital clean water, powerful tangible reminder even deepest darkness will live, rebuild, hope, could still burn. Burned in Anya, People Haven, scattered sparks humanity across silent, scarred world, testament survival, quiet, defiant refusal extinguished by ashes past.